Hello, British literature scholars. It is the 12th week of the fall 2016 semester, and I say welcome. And if you're watching this on Monday, happy Halloween, hence the orange. Um, of course, if you were watching this on Tuesday, it's still fall colors, so that's okay. But really, I like Halloween, so we're going to go with happy Halloween here. All right, so this week, you're going to get a very healthy dose of Virginia Woolf. And that is perfectly okay because Virginia Woolf is probably one of the most important female authors of the 20th century. Now, there's two readings from her, and then of course you've got another poem from World War II as well. The first one, A Room of One's Own, is a very famous because she puts forth the argument that all a woman would need to be a great writer is a little bit of a salary and then a room of her own. But what we're reading here is, and this is going to go back to your discussion postings, about Shakespeare's sister. So essentially what she's going to do, what Woolf is going to do in the beginning of this piece, is she's going to notice that as she was trying to do research on women from the English Renaissance, there's not a lot of information. In fact, there's almost none from prior to that. Now, this is ironic considering that Queen Elizabeth I was ruler of England during this time, but there's not a lot of information about that at all. And then, of course, we've got the Shakespeare's sister chapter. And here she's going to make the argument about women of the Renaissance, and it's kind of an argument that was relevant again in the 20th century and even today in the 21st century. What if there was a genius who happened to be female instead of male, and her genius was suppressed to the point where she went crazy and committed suicide? That's possible. So she comes up with this fictional character. Now, Shakespeare did have sisters, but none of them were named Judith. In fact, Judith was the name of one of his daughters. But it's that whole idea of a woman from that time did not have the same advantages that men did. And if she was a genius, she was really suppressed because the men were scared of female geniuses. So those are the things to look at as you read The Room of One's Own passage. Of course, this is part of a larger book, but you only have to read those few pages. Now, as far as Three Guineas, that goes to World War II. World War II was even more devastating than World War I was. And the thing about World War II that was different from World War I, as far as British literature goes, is that World War II directly affected England because Hitler sent his Luftwaffe, or his Air Force, into London and started just dropping bombs on it nonstop. This was called the Battle of London. This was a turning point in World War II because it was the first time that Hitler's advances had been repelled. The British were able to defend itself, or the British were able to defend London from this takeover attempt, and therefore Hitler was not able to take over England, and that was the first of his failures, which of course there would be some after that. So, Woolf, who committed suicide because she was Jewish and she was afraid that Hitler would actually succeed in taking England, and then thereby, torturing and killing Jews, she wrote this piece called Three Guineas. And her main argument in it is that Britain is a patriarchal society. The men have all the advantages, and the women are basically second-class citizens. Or if these women are to marry outside of British aristocracy, perhaps a British woman were to marry a French man or a German man or a Swedish man, then she loses her British citizenship and therefore becomes a citizen of the country that her husband is a citizen of. Because of this, Virginia Woolf is going to create something called the Outsider Society. She says this is a special club. The only requirement is that you be a female. You don't have to pay any dues. You don't have to attend any meetings. You are now an outsider. And as a member of the Outsiders Club, she says, I have no country. Because of what I just explained, she says, as a woman, I have no country. My country is the world. So she's going to actually put forth the argument that the world is where women live and not just in England. So that's an important argument from Three Guineas. Or for that posting, you could look at the Keith Douglas posting, Various Mind Mix. That is a poem that is going to humanize a German soldier. Because essentially what's going to happen is the British are going to kill a German soldier. They're going to find his body a couple of days later, bloated and eaten up with flies and all kinds of other grossness. But they're going to find a little journal on him, which he has a picture of his fiancée. And she's going to say Various Meinnicht, which essentially is German for forget me not. So here's a German soldier, just like the British soldiers, who has a fiancée waiting for him at home. And then, of course, another part of the poem talks about how that German's mother is knitting socks for him, just like the British mothers are knitting socks for them. So this was a disturbing poem in that it humanized German soldiers at a time when Germany was being run by one of the most ruthless dictators ever in the history of mankind. So those are the things to think about as you read those postings, or read those pieces for the postings. So that's it for this week. There's only 2 more weeks of postings left. You got this week's postings. Next week you're going to do Salman Rushdie. And then we're going to spend the entire rest of the semester on the research paper. So you're almost done with postings. What I want you to do is think about, as you do the rest of these readings, go all the way back to Wordsworth and come all the way to Rushdie. Who do you like a lot? What did you read that you would like to actually do some research and learn more about? If you can figure that out, you've got your research paper topic. I have chosen readings that, going into Galileo and going into our library, you should find plenty of material to use in a research paper. That's why I chose a lot of the readings that I chose. So, bear that in mind. And again, for those of you that are watching on Monday, happy Halloween. And for those of you that are watching later, well, happy fall. And if you have any more questions, you can reach me through the usual channels.